Okay, I'm on a foam block here. I've used this foam block as part of a Gasku technique that I started a couple of years ago. This was a technique that uses gravity and positional changes using various kinds of foam blocks in order to put you into alignment. What I found is that the tension I have in my body is stronger than gravity, so while I think there are some valuable techniques, ultimately it didn't work very well for me, but I still use various foam blocks. This particular foam block works because it takes my feet off the ground so that I can do some exercises without them dragging on the ground. First thing you might notice in when I'm doing this is that while I can move this leg up, I think there are a neurological scale of like 0 to 5. I'm about a 3 or 4 maybe for moving this leg. But this leg, here I am trying to lift it up, and I'm a good solid 0 in moving that leg up. So there is some kind of paralysis going on here. I was initially diagnosed with HSP, hereditary spastic paraparesis, and there is a paraparesis going on, and then I can't move my leg very much. This was one of the first symptoms that I had when I went to my primary care physician in late 2016, that I couldn't lift my leg very much. So that's not an evolving symptom. That's one of the first symptoms, along with the various other things that I talked about, the hyperreflexia. But I can't move this leg. However, I can lift this leg like this, and I can lift this leg like this. But you'll notice that there's some edema. The foot is constantly pushed in this direction. There's no dorsiflexion as there is here, and it moves in this direction. There's movement here. I can do foot circles, not great, but I retain some ability here. But this one, not very much. So there is some paraparesis going on here, but not paralysis, because I can move my legs like this. The other thing you can see from being here is that while I have less range of motion here, I don't understand quite why, but while I can lift this leg like this leg just kind of goes that far, not as high up as this one. And I can feel some tension as I try and lift that higher. And in that regard, it's clear I have some kind of compensation going on when my brain wants me to lift this leg. I get tension here. It's as if the rest of the body is trying to assist this leg in moving up. Of course, it can't. So there is some sense in which I'd like to disassociate, this leg from this leg. If I want to lift this leg up, I don't want any tension with this leg moving. I've got to rewire my brain in some way so that if I want to lift this leg, I don't get any tension in moving that leg. The other thing that you can see here is the spasticity of this leg. Remember, spasticity in my previous video was a velocity-dependent restriction of motion. So you can see that while I can move slowly this way and this way without a full range of motion, but I can move, this leg can move quickly like this. But if I try to move this leg quickly, it stops. See, I can go up, I can go down, but if I try and go fast, it'll simply stop. And that's the velocity-dependent restriction of motion. Now, what muscle is causing that, I've never been able to find out. No one's been able to particularly tell, but that is clearly a problem that occurred at the very beginning. Finally, and I'll have another video that shows this better, the knot in the glute and the weakness on the left side is probably, we can see it. I can move all my weight onto this part and pretty much hold up until I lose my balance, but I can pretty much hold in this direction without a problem. This way, if we move, I feel it's better on a hard surface, but I can move and I'm sort of going up on that knot. And if I go further, I'm just going to fall right over. That was not me pushing myself over, that was me sort of tipping a balance and then I just slip over. Whereas you won't see that on this side where the whatever, the side or the strength in the side, whatever, I can hold myself up. But I tend to do exercises in which I try and move this leg to be straighter and get to that. And with several minutes of exercise, I can increase that range of motion. But why is it kind of gets restricted, and then with an extra effort, I can sometimes push it up to there. But no matter how much exercise I do, it always reverts back to like that. So there's other exercises I do, but that's the first ones that I do on this kind of a Gasku block. Okay, one exercise I like to do is, of course, knee to the shoulder. After limbering up, I can usually do something like this. Knee to the opposite shoulder. I feel tension in the left glute, up and on the side, but also the hip flexor. The left hip flexor is telling me that there's a bit of tension there. I think clearly I've got a left hip flexor that is in constant contraction, and so no matter what I do, I can't loosen it up at all. But I gain some bit of flexibility here. I can do this. I can take the other one and do both at the same time. I have some flexibility here. I can do this. I can do it further if I pull. Or on this side, I can only really do this. The foot is turned in. And I don't have it on this side. Of course, I can do some measure of movement of the foot. On this side, a limited amount. But as I said in a previous video, I've got a lot of trigger point tension here. If I can hit that point, I get spasms. That's not me. That's a spasm. So I think there'd be some more dorsiflexion possible if I could loosen that up. I can move it eventually up more, but there's no strength here. Again, see, I could both lift this and hold this. This goes on its own. But if I were to let go here on this and try and hold this leg up, it does that right away. And once it straightens out, to get it to come up again, really have to strain. It doesn't bend. And there it is, back again, like that. I've tried, stretching to get this thing various different ways to get that hip flexor to stop being clenched 24/7. But any number of exercises that I've tried hasn't worked. I'd be interested in anything. I was reading in Hannah's book on somatic exercise or somatic whatever, to try and find a way to feel and then loosen up both the left hip flexor, whichever. Another exercise I do every day is a kind of child pose. I can feel tension again in the left glute when I do this. I try and do it with my feet together because otherwise feet kind of collapse to the left. One exercise I try and do, the knee kind of complains and the glute kind of complains, is from here to lean back as much as possible. I can't do it from here because I've got pen in the way. I feel that the upper thighs are very weak, and exercises that I can try and do to strengthen them would be good. But you can see in this position that the left glute is just very unhappy and pushes me around. It's hard to stay in this position. I can't, but see here I'm falling this way. Another exercise, or just a position, they kind of show I'm talking about that. See, I have to push my leg. This leg goes, this leg has to be put into position. The leg falls this way. This one I can do this. Here is all I can do. Again, I can put my weight this way on the right glute. If I go to the left, I'm going up onto the knot, and now I'm going on the other side of that knot, feeling that knot, up on the knot, and to the other side of the knot.